Okay. Okay, so I have started the recording. My bad, I just forgot to start the recording. Okay. So emergency fund is a very important concept. In fact, once you are starting your career, it's a good idea to understand your, what is your monthly expenses, multiply that by 6 to 9 or 12, whatever you think are comfortable with, but at least 6 times. And make sure that you have that emergency fund available to you in liquid. It's not like, so I'm not talking about with that emergency fund, if you buy a financial instrument which you can't break easily, that's not the emergency fund. Emergency fund is liquid money. This is primarily money which you want to keep aside just in case there's an emergency, your company goes through a hard time. Let's say you're out of job for 3 months, you have somebody in the family who falls ill, or any type of emergency which can come in. So whenever you start your investment journey, it's a good idea to first set this emergency fund for you. And we'll talk about where you can park your emergency fund. I think I have a question from Deepshikha Tiwari. One should invest in gold, diamond, or in stock market, and why? We'll talk about that, Dr. Deepshikha. Next one is make goals. And concept of goals is very simple. That what you are doing is that you are putting a amount and timeline on it, right? So let's say if you are planning next 20 years of life, if you are, let's say, roughly 20, 25 years old, your goals might be, I want to travel across Europe, or I want to go to New Zealand, or I want to do bungee jumping in New Zealand. That might be your goal. Or your goal might be, I want to buy a car, I want to, or maybe when you grow up, you have a family, your goals might be, I have to pay for my kids' education. Other goal, which I think probably applies to almost all of us, is that your goal might be, I need to build a retirement corpus, right? I need to, when I retire at 60, yes, Sharma ji, we'll come to tips for senior citizens for sure, Sharma ji. So those type of goals are important, that we understand that what are our financial requirements for next. And look, when you're making goals, your visibility might be different, right? Based on all of us, what we do. Some of us might have visibility into 10 years, 15 years. Retirement is actually a requirement for almost everybody. So, unless you have inherited a lot of wealth from your parents or somebody else in your family, retirement corpus is mostly required by all of us, because your typical working life will go to 60, 65 years. If you're as energetic as Sharma ji, you'll probably have much longer. But that's roughly what people end up with. Making a savings plan, this is another important part. We'll talk about some formal structures for this as well. Savings plan is that how much money should I save? If I earn 100 rupees, how much should I save? So we'll talk about some formal frameworks for this. Get rid of debt. This is more or less important. If you are mostly in 30s, we actually end up making a lot of choices for debt. If possible, it's not possible always to get rid of debt, especially if you have bought a house or, yeah, I think I think I take your point that, yeah, with life expectancy, retirement. Yeah. So we'll talk about that retirement thing also when I once. Get rid of debt is important because debt is just unnecessary paying to somebody. But yeah, for some things which you need, like let's say a car you want to buy, but it's not a good idea to be in a lot of debt. I know a lot of Western world operates on debt, but I think a lot of Indians at least have that philosophy. Let's not be in too much of debt. Some of the debts are good, so you have to do calculation on debt, whether this is a debt which is helping me in uh, helping me with something, or it's not helping me. Typically what happens is housing loan, all those kind of things are fine, but debts like taking a personal loan to buy a car, is buy something costly, or go on a vacation, those type of debts are actually high interest rate debts, not really good. Next is important one, track your net worth. And I'll probably talk about, maybe let me just jump into this. So it's a good idea to, okay, so let's just talk about this spreadsheet. Yeah, so it's a good idea. We just use a, simple, calculation of different asset types which you might have invested in and put a date around it. You can do it weekly, monthly, whatever thing. But it's a good idea to do these type of calculations. Just maintain a simple spreadsheet somewhere where what you are saying is on 1st June 21, my debt fund was this, my fixed deposit, what is my, so you can generate all these parameters, right? How much I'm uh, investing in, different type of assets. I see a question, is education loan worth it? I think if you think education is worth it and you don't have any other option to fund that, normally in India, education gets funded by parents. But yeah, if you want that education and you don't have anybody to fund it, then loan might be worth it. Uh, but yeah, if you don't, if you think that's an optional education, then you have to more think of whether that education is worth it or not. So this type of spreadsheet will help you in just making sure that at regular intervals, at least do a monthly calculation like this, because this will also help you in further things which I called about, asset allocation. So what happens is that if you do, so you fill in some basic data like this, and then you calculate things like this, debt percent, equity percent. Now what that will help you in that sometimes yours, one of your asset might grow faster, right? So let's say your stocks, suddenly there's a stock market which goes up and your equity percentage becomes higher. Now you know that you have to rebalance your portfolio, right? You want to make sure that you pull some money out of this and actually put it here, right? So this kind of tracking for you, which is even a monthly tracking, is actually good enough. Okay, so this is an important one, and I think listen to this carefully. Most of us, and this I have seen with a lot of people, for us saving money is saving account. This is like, you have this refined oil, right? So refined oil is a word for chemically treated oil. But if they called it chemically treated oil, no, none of us will buy that, right? So refined oil sounds good, right? So savings bank account like sounds like that it is for savings, right? But frankly, savings account is actually ripping you off. And savings, if you are running a savings account, so typically the interest rates you will get is, it will be 2.5%, 3%, right? That is roughly the uh, Mohit, I'll get to your question as well. I can see your question, Abhay and Mohit. Uh, so So let's just talk about this savings bank account. Look, if you are growing at 2 to 3% your money, and inflation in India is 4 to 6%, so you are becoming poorer day by day. So my suggestion is, if you are doing, if you have a savings bank account where you have any significant money, when I say if you have more than 50,000 or let's say 1 lakh in your savings account, it's a bad idea. Move that money out. Don't keep more than 50,000, 1 lakh. Don't, if your salary comes to your savings account, fine. Move that out on first of every month. Don't keep anything in your savings account. And let's again talk about another investment thing. I am sure a lot of you might have gone through. I'm guessing a lot of you will have LIC policies. And LIC policies are one of the smartest marketing technique which LIC has used over time is that every family has a LIC agent, right? Everybody's cousin, everybody's uncle, everybody's aunt, somebody in your family is a LIC agent. And what happens with most of us is that when your aunt, when your cousin comes to you and tells you this is a very nice LIC policy, uh, and then will convince you that, yeah, you pay 10,000 here, 10,000 here, and then you get, 2 lakhs at that point, those kind of things, right? So, that is something which is very common, right? LIC, I'm sure a lot of you, max limit is 100 people out here somehow, but I'm sure at least 50% of you probably will have a LIC policy sold by, somebody in your family. And so one thing you should understand is when I say LIC is a scam, I'm not saying that you don't need insurance. You need insurance, but LIC is a bad way to get insurance. Or let me put it this way, let me not point out LIC. There's one more aspect of LIC, which I think all of you know about, is that LIC is government's arm to, fund things which are, so Punjab National Bank goes in trouble, government will ask LIC to invest money in that, right? So do you really want to invest your money if you are buying a LIC policy? So it's like government has a large pile of cash available with LIC whenever it is in trouble. So you don't want your insurance companies to be that pile of cash for the government, right? So if Nirav Modi runs away, that actually will impact your LIC returns in a way, right? So you don't, yeah. So I think some of the people have written in chat. That is exactly the point I was coming, that separate out your insurance requirements and separate out your investment requirements. LIC usually is a combination of both. And usually it becomes bad at both. So I'll give you with some examples so that this is clear to you. So let's just talk about these, LIC policies. And this is real calculation. Somebody says my voice is not audible. I can try coming closer to the laptop mic. So these are actual returns of some of the LIC policies. So as you can see, the typical returns of LIC policies is between 5 to 8%. And the cover which you get is actually very low, right? So this is, I think you can see from this calculation that you are getting cover of, you are getting, for example, in LIC Jeevan Ankur, you are getting 8% return and cover is only 18 times annual premium. So if let's say your annual premium is 1 lakh, you will get 18 lakh as a cover, which probably is not enough for most of us. Okay. If you buy pure term insurance, you can probably roughly around 10,000 of annual premium, you can probably get a 1 crore cover. So it is always a good idea to separate out your insurance requirement, because LIC type of models, actually HDFC also has similar policies, which are called as endowment policies, where they give you some money back. But what happens with most of the LIC agents or these insurance agents is, you should ask them, what is the return I'll get? Forget about this, that how much money goes in. So that brings us to an important point of something called as XIRR. So let me just finish the LIC thread and I'll come to XIRR. Just take that these are the returns which are there for these policies. What do you mean by return versus life cover? I think there's a question from Anshul. Yeah, so return is basically LIC is finally returning you some money, right? You invest for 10 years and then it will give you some money, right? So what you are trying to calculate in return is that what is the percentage at which my money has grown. Life cover is that in case you pass away, in case your death is there, what will your depend? So life cover amount is for your family, not for you, because it comes once you are dead. Return is what you'll get if you don't die. Let's put it that. So now let's just talk about difference between LIC and, look, this happened with me when I started my career in 95, and first few years obviously went in paying back loans to my friends I had borrowed from in college. But once I started probably saving some money, I had some friend who came over and sold me a LIC policy. And let's just see. So this is around 97, 98. Let's say I've paid those premiums for 20 years. So let's just talk about simple scenarios. So we are talking about, let's say I'm paying 5,000 rupees per month, which is 50,000 rupees a year. And so if I go with, let's say if I had bought a HDFC equity fund for 20 years, I had invested in that. And HDFC equity fund has given a returns of 23.56%. I would have had a corpus of 1.95 crores right now. Okay. But for the same thing, so the same thing what LIC would have given me after that is maybe around 20, 30 lakhs. Okay, so you understand the delta, and this delta keeps becoming bigger and bigger, especially for long duration. And then compare one more thing. I could have taken out of that 5,000 rupees per month, I could have taken term insurance for 1,000 rupees and just invested 4,000 rupees in this mutual fund. And my overall returns will still be significantly higher. And another part which is again important is in LIC. So let's say I do my LIC policy or any other insurance. Let me not just blame LIC for this. Or so let's say I do that premiums for 5 years. I can't just go back and let's say I suddenly have a family emergency where I need 5 lakh rupees, 10 lakh rupees. I can't go back to LIC and say, give me that money back, right? So there's no liquidity in that, right? So whereas if I have a mutual fund, obviously I can sell part of it. I can sell some units of it, right? Obviously my overall return will come down, but at least it will satisfy that requirement. So somebody has talked about tax benefit of LIC premium. Yeah, there is a tax benefit of LIC premium, but that you can get from other investments as well. And we'll talk about that as well. Okay, so let me just talk a little bit about XIRR calculation, what is called as internal rate of return. So what happens in our investment is, and this is a very important thing to understand, because if you don't understand this, anybody can take you for a ride. So what you need to understand is, and this is typically, especially LIC agents can take you for a ride. Look, whenever we are investing in an asset, let's say you are buying a mutual fund or you are buying, so our investments happen over a time period, right? We don't make a one-shot investment, right? If it's a one-shot investment, it's easy to control, easy to calculate, right? It's like simple interest rates, right? Whatever we are taught in school time, right? But what happens is that, let's say I am investing 1,000 rupees per month on starting of every month, and I invest this for 12 months. So I have invested overall 12,000 rupees. And let's say I make 25,000 rupees on 1st Jan 2025. So I have made 12,000 investment, 13,000 I have made extra. But just look at this investment we need to, so there's a formula in Excel called XIRR. This basically what it does is in XIRR, you put all this data. So here it is put as minus. So it is basically a time adjusted returns. XIRR calculates for you. And if you change the date, XIRR will change. So what I'm saying is I have invested 1,000 rupees every, and let's say if I get on 2020, if I get 25,000 rupees on 1st Jan 21, the returns are actually 243%. But if I get the same returns, let's say 5 years later, this becomes a 17% return, right? So this is a calculation which is very important for you, which you should understand, very easy to do in Excel or Google Sheets, that here you are saying minus, which is basically that you are paying that money, it's outflow of money, and the value of that money is 25,000. So when I come to this calculation, which I was talking about, these returns are calculating using XIRR calculations, right? Because you are paying a premium over a long amount of time. Okay, let me move on to the next topic. So I think this chart actually clearly explains you how much you have probably, if one of your relatives convinced you to take a LIC policy, you have already probably lost few crores. I have personally lost this, so I can tell you from, I was paying almost, I think 80-90,000 as a LIC premium for a long. CAGR is, I think I see a question from Vipul. CAGR is compounded annual growth rate. I think that's the full form of that. That is nothing but just the compound interest, what is taught in our schools. It's exactly so. XIRR and CAGR are different. CAGR is useful in calculating if you have just 1 point of investment and 1 point of output. XIRR is very useful if you are looking at multiple points of investment and multiple points of output, and which is a reality for most of us, right? That we invest per month, and then we withdraw that money at some regular basis, right? So XIRR is more important parameter for us to look at. So another thing, let's talk about it, and which is easily feasible.
Arnab speaking. Can I
Yeah, yeah.
interrupt for a second? Yeah. So, like you said, you have lost some 80, 90,000 rupees in, by some fondly uncles or aunts. So, but once you committed in that path for a few years, let's say,
Yeah.
and your goal is, let's say, after 20 years, how do you come out of that in between?
Yeah, so that is dependent. In fact, this happened with one of my colleagues very recently. So he actually decided he will just abandon the policy. Okay, he was just few months into it. So what you need to do is you need to do that calculation that if you have taken a policy which is either over the amount you should be insured on, right? So let's say if you don't have any dependents, you don't need insurance actually. You don't need term insurance. Nobody is, you need, if you have, let's say I'm 48, I have my kids who are teenagers right now. So I need insurance because even if I'm dead, they need to be taken care of, right? But let's say if you are 70-year-old, you don't have dependent kids on you, you don't need insurance. If let's say you don't have, your parents are well off and your parents are good on their own, you don't need to buy insurance, right? So I think the best point is if you are already stuck in a policy, just figure out from your agent that uh, do you get surrender value. But I think even if you are losing money, sometimes it's worthwhile to abandon your policy. Don't get into that sunken cost mode where you are, you'll end up losing more money due to that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So this is when you're planning personal finance, this is something you should always think, assuming obviously that you have dependents who are worried, who are dependent on you, and you want to take care of them even if you are gone. Uh, I know I have a friend whose husband just passed away all of a sudden, and a lot of homemakers in India actually don't know much about the finances, right? So it's always a good idea about sharing your passwords. You make a online Excel and share it, if not with family, share it with friends. So at least there are 3, 4 people who know where all you have invested, what are the ID password. Like in software companies, we have asset management type of tools, right? Similar type of thing you should manage for sure. Account nominations is an important aspect of personal finance. Just make sure that anything you are setting up has a nomination to your family, friends, whatever, parents, wherever you want to give. Term insurance is again an important part that if you are, if you have dependents on you, especially make sure that you buy good term insurance and pure term insurance. Don't buy these endowment policies, which are a combination of investment and insurance. You will be inadequate on both sides, as well as insurance, as well as, the returns. Now let's just talk about a question. How much do I save? And this is more a, you can say, a broad rule which a lot of people follow. And I'm hoping that a lot of you probably can save more than this. Uh, it's a good idea to divide your requirements into needs, wants, and saving. And this is after tax. So let's assuming that. So I see a question from Akansha: is health insurance worth it? Totally worth it. Health insurance is something very useful. In most of the companies, employers give it, and when employers give it, actually you get better terms on health insurance. But if that is not good enough for you, buy personal health insurance. uh, it's better to convince your company to buy health insurance for you, because actually companies also pay less when they buy health insurance. So I think I see a question from Office Art Park. I'm guessing that is Niharika. So technically, if there are no dependents, not having, yeah, you don't need insurance if you don't. Yeah, actually, I think Niharika, that makes sense. If you don't have any dependents, you can actually exit your policies. Yeah. Okay. So post-retirement years remaining. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Okay, Niharika, thanks for confirming. I was just guessing from your name. Um, 50% on needs, 30% on wants, 20% on saving. This is more a thumb rule type of thing, but I'm guessing a lot of you will be in software jobs, and ITNs do get paid pretty well. I hire a lot of people from in my software company, so I know software guys get paid quite well. I think this is easily manageable for most of us. In fact, I think this saving, you can take it to 30% or more. Uh, and that is certainly something possible for you. But this is sort of a thumb rule which you should follow. And one thing you can do here is that as you grow in your career, you can increase the part which you are spending on savings, right? So let's say if your salary increases by 10%, you can increase your saving by maybe 15% instead of just increasing it by 10%, right? Now let's talk about various asset classes. What are the different asset classes which are there? There are obviously liquid assets like real estate, very tough to buy, tough to sell. Some of them appreciate well actually, but real estate, obviously it requires a large amount of money. Is buying a house worth it or not? That's a very complex calculation. I will pass that for now. Otherwise we'll get diverted. But then there are liquid assets like stocks, mutual funds, debt and equity mutual funds. And then you have fixed deposits, and then you have digital gold. I don't encourage anybody to buy physical gold unless you are really very fond of wearing gold. Don't buy physical gold because it has a lot of making charges. At least don't buy it as investment. If you love wearing gold, that's a different thing. Then there are asset classes like real estate investment trust. These are basically a new asset class where there are trusts which invest in real estate and then get money out of that real estate appreciation or the rental income which they get from real estate. And this is an interesting asset class. For example, maybe you can't afford to buy a real estate in Bandra Kurla complex in Mumbai, which is the costliest real estate. But using this, you can actually be an investor there. And then InvIT is nothing but it's infrastructure investment trusts are there, which are similar things. They pick up infrastructure projects. There are digital assets, Bitcoin, and I saw a lot of questions from people about do I really suggest these digital assets as part of investment? My suggestion is not to invest in them because one thing is the volatility of these assets is very high. The other part is, which is more, you can call it a philosophical thing. Look, all these digital assets are primarily trying to break, or rather breaking country boundaries, right? Currency is something which is managed by a country, right? You have a RBI, you have a government. So if your thought is that the country's boundaries will break over time, then probably these digital assets will become very important. But if your assumption is next 20, 30 years, we'll still have countries, and countries will try to control the currencies. They will try to restrict the usage of them. But it's very, Elon Musk does a tweet and the price goes down or price goes up. So such assets, I would not say, even if you want exposure, limit to maybe 1%, 2% of your overall asset allocation. Don't overdo on any asset class. So Srinivas has a question. What is your suggestion on REIT and InvIT? So I'll be talking about this. I think they are a good asset class. And now there are, Srinivas, there are some mutual funds, which internally, in fact, recently I have invested in a mutual fund called Parag Parekh Conservative Hybrid that internally invests in REIT and InvITs. So there was another question about retirement years of, retirement corpus, how much you need. Some of the standard calculations are assuming that you work till 60 years and typically, let's say, plan for 80 years. So what you do is you calculate inflation and understand your current expenses, apply inflation to that, understand when you are 60, what will be the cost, and then multiply that by 2025, roughly. That is the retirement corpus you will need. So last point which I'm talking about is actually a very important point, weak correlation between asset classes. So what I mean is that there are a lot of asset classes which move in tandem. So for example, let's say you buy a index fund, which is a Sensex fund, right? Or let's say a Nifty 50 you buy. You buy another fund, which is a mid-cap fund. What will happen is that both these asset classes will roughly have a correlation, right? Stock market is moving roughly at the same pace. So what will happen is that there are strongly correlated asset classes. There are non-related asset classes. So whenever we are trying to do asset class diversification, what you should understand is that you should buy into asset classes which are not that related. if all your asset class go up and go down at the same place, so like, for example, just to give you an example, if you look at the historical prices, what has happened is when stock market has gone up, gold has come down. When gold has gone up, stock market has come down. So you will see that correlation. If I plot that chart for last 15, 20 years, you can see that the weak correlation between the two. Now, investing in gold and stock market is a diversification, but investing in mid cap and investing in large caps is probably not diversification. It can be something else that you are getting into different types of stocks, but true diversification is about two asset classes which have a weak correlation between themselves. Okay, so another interesting, I think a lot of people, a lot of you had question also on this. A small case is a very interesting product which has come recently, and it actually is a very interesting product. I personally use it. A small case, what it does is that it enables you to buy into a bunch of stocks, a bouquet of stocks, very easily. And here you can buy based on different criterias. So for example, and you might have different theses in your life. So for example, I believe that electric vehicles is a 10-year story, and there will be tons of companies which will become important as we move to electric vehicles. But I don't know, I don't have time to research all those companies. And in fact, some of these names, what happens with most of us is we know the stocks. So out of this, I think you'll probably know Mahindra and Mahindra, you'll know Hero MotoCorp, you'll know Indian Oil. I'm guessing rest of the companies, most of us will not know. But these are companies who are working uh, on the entire ecosystem of electric vehicles. So assuming that 10 years down the line, let's say 20% of our vehicles will be electric vehicles, what are the companies which will benefit from it? So a small case gives you an option to own that bouquet of stocks which will benefit from the electric vehicles movement as per their analysts, and buy them together. So this is a very interesting way to buy stocks actually. And in some way, it is like a mutual fund, but the only difference is that you actually get stocks credited in your Demat account. So I love small case as a project. I'll give you some examples from my portfolio as well. Yeah, so I think we talked about this, that setting a financial goal is very easy. Put a time frame to that, put an amount to that, so that you can understand what type of, yes, and you know, there are different goals where even the urgency of those goals is different. For example, let's say you need buy a car 5 years down the line for which you need 10 lakh. Look, this goal is something where you can take a risk, right? Let's say if you don't have a car, you can still survive, right? It's not such a big deal. Or maybe you will buy a cheaper car, right? Instead of 10 lakh car, maybe you will buy a 6 lakh car, right? But kids education probably is non-optional for you. You can't tell your kid, I don't have enough money, I won't send you to college. That is a tough one to do for any parent, right? Retirement is something you certainly need, right? So your priority of foreign trip is something maybe you can postpone by a year. If you are not able to collect 5 lakh, maybe, or instead of going to Europe, you might end up in Australia or maybe some other cheaper country, right? So I think Srinivas had a question on Indian Oil EV growth is interlinked. I'm not very sure of that, but I think Indian Oil is working on becoming their petrol pumps, becoming charging stations for cars. That is one part of the entire EV ecosystem, that your petrol pumps. In fact, I have visited some companies where I have seen that the petrol pump you'll see 10 years ahead will be very different from what you see right now. What about paid small case? Krishnan, you have a question. I think it's worth it, Krishnan. I think paid small case is just like a paid mutual fund where you pay money to a guy to manage your portfolio. Can I plan to retire at 40 years of age? Yes, you can, Anirudh. You just need to make sure that your expenses are low before 40 years and your money grows at a good pace. I have ESOPs from, say, an EV company. Pratyush has a question. Should I focus on other industries? Yeah, Pratyush, you can take it both ways, Pratyush. One way is that if you have ESOPs from an EV company, my understanding is your understanding of EV will be much better. So you might just go, full speed on that. But other way to look at is, so for example, I had ESOPs from Infosys. So, and I still own Infosys stocks. So frankly, I don't buy IT stocks because I'm heavily leveraged on Infosys. So I think Infosys is good enough. I don't buy Wipro. I don't buy any other IT stock. So you can take it both ways based on what you want. Difference between small, mid cap, large cap. So market capitalization in the market, the top 50 companies are called. Yeah, Anshul, your question I'm trying to answer. I think we have a lot of young participants as well. That's nice to see. So yeah, small cap, it's basically bigger companies which have large market capitalization, stock market. They are called as large caps, and then you have mid caps. So I think the range is 0 to 50, and then 50 to 150, and then something like that. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting that number exactly. That is the difference. You should switch to direct plan. Puneet, I saw your message. Growth, always look at mutual funds, which are growth mutual funds. Don't take dividends, and always do direct plans. There are so many platforms right now. You can just spend 10 minutes and you'll be on a direct plan with, I personally use Kuvera more because I used to advise them, but there's Paytm Money, Kuvera, Zerodha, tons of platforms, right, which are direct things. Then I see a message from Tashiba Khan, in which there can be overlap. Yeah, you're right. Overlap is something which we should avoid. There are enough tools on internet where you can, overlap of 10-15% is fine, but yeah, try to avoid overlap, Tashiba Khan. So this is another way to think of how you should plan where to invest in. So these are some frameworks of, as I was talking initially, right? There's always a risk to reward ratio, right? So this is one theoretical framework of just doing 100 minus age formula. So for example, I'm 48, so I should do 100 minus age is 52. So based on that, I decide what is my equity percentage, what is my debt percentage. So based on your risk profile, so this is one formula, but I would say that I'll use the next formula, which is more evolved in terms of, there is another framework for investment, and this is something which you should certainly use. There is a core of your investment, then there's a satellite. So core of your investment should always be in companies which are more predictable, much larger. They will obviously move at a lower pace, but you should, and how much of it should be core, how much, for example, personally for me, like Infosys is core, or I own ICICI Bank stock. That is a core stock for me, right? And a satellite is something like, for example, I'm trying to now acquire stocks in IDFC First Bank. That's the upcoming bank, right? IDFC is not an established bank. It is trying to establish itself as a retail bank in last 2-3 years. So that is my satellite investment. So you should always have a core which is typically consists of index funds or equity funds, corporate bond funds, and gold. Then satellite is something where, so for example, my investment is a satellite investment where I'm taking a call. I don't know a lot of these companies, but I'm taking a call that EVs will become important in next 10 years. But satellite, I will try to keep it below 20, maybe 20-30%. I would still prefer that my 70% of my core portfolio is in fairly established companies or in established debt instruments. And we'll talk about actual portfolios as well. So this is still theory. We'll come to practical stuff as well. Now let's talk about another way to invest. This is basically understanding your investment style, and all of us can be different. All of us have different blood pressure problems. So if you are conservative, want to be, so these are just ratios which are based on different types of, investment styles of people. And this is actually coming out of a data. This is more, I found this data somewhere, that these are the 5 styles which they have seen mostly in investors. And here you understand one thing, that we are
दिमाग खराब होते हो लोग बार-बार बात करके दिमाग खराब.
Okay. So one thing you should understand is that we are investing in asset classes which are which are weakly correlated. So for example, Indian stock market, what Indian companies are doing might be very different from US market, right? So here we are trying to get diversification via, so let's say if you invest in international equity, you invest in a US index, right? S&P 500 or something else, right? A US index, right? So now India as a country might go in a different direction. It's quite possible India goes down, US goes up, or let's say your international equity has some other markets like Brazil, China, Japan, or some other thing. So debt is another thing which is more predictable, percentages, all those things. Gold is a, as we talked about, and let's just see some charts here. I know this is a slightly crowded chart, but this is the actual data of, so what has been done in this is, and this is an important chart to read. Look, we talked about 4 asset classes. So this, what it has done is that it has taken Nifty 50. If you look at the right side of the chart, let me just maybe put some annotations here. Yeah. Just 1 minute. I'm just trying to figure out annotations here. So let's say, sorry guys. Yeah, so if you look at on the right side of the chart, there's a Nifty 50. This is Indian stock market. There's a NASDAQ 100, which is US market. Then there's a 10-year bond, which is your debt, reflection of debt. Now, what you see in this chart is that at different times, you know, in different time periods, and this is over, I think, 15 years. Yeah. You realize that, for example, if you look at 2008, your Nifty 50 went down by minus 52%, NASDAQ went down by minus 42%, 10-year bond went up by 17%, gold went up by 16%, right? So now what you realize is that this is the true power of diversification, right? That you are able to you know, still get decent returns with better risk, with lower risk. And now let's look at one more very interesting thing. If you look at on the left side, the guy in the middle who's got 10.6%, right? This guy is actually getting, yeah, I think now I can. So yeah, you look at this guy 10.6% and you look at this guy 10.6%. You might feel it is the same return, but just understand this. The guy on the right side, Nifty 50, who invested only in stocks, has gone through a lot of volatility. His price would have gone up, gone down. All those things would have happened. The guy on the left side, who was a balanced investor, still got the same returns, but he got it with less heartache, right? His investments didn't go. That is where the power of diversification and investing in multiple asset classes come in. Even if returns are same, if the volatility is low, and if you look at this entire guy, right, who has invested, if you look at these returns, right, these returns are more, you know, they are more, you know, the standard deviation or the deviation in the returns is relatively much less, right? So that is where the power of diversification comes, that if you diversify into weakly correlated, let me figure out how to undo this. Sorry, guys. Yeah. So yeah, let me just clear all this and come to mouse. Yeah. So this is where the power of weak correlation of asset classes comes, right? That your investments, if you're a balanced investor like the guy out here, you are reaching the same returns, but with lower risk. Okay, so I think a lot of new questions have come. I'll just try to take some of one question. I'm actively investing in stocks. Is it bad to buy mutual funds? Aki from Aki, my single answer on that is don't buy stocks individually unless you have a lot of time to analyze the stocks. Better to go into mutual funds and small case if you don't have that much time. Is angel broking better than Zerodha, or Zerodha is better? I don't know actually that one. I use Zerodha, but I don't know about angel broking. Advisable to participate in ESPP? I'm sorry, I didn't get that question. Are there any good standard tax saving strategies? We'll talk about that, Niharika. I'm really enjoying the session, but have to join. No problem, Puneet. What should be? Okay, we'll come back to questions. So yeah, means if Albert Einstein has talked about it, you know, right? It is something important, right? I'm sure you might have seen some Hindi movies where there's a Lala in the village who's, takes compound interest on the loan, and then, some woman suffers due to that, all that stuff. Mother India type of movies. I'm sure some of you might have watched it. So compounding is a very interesting thing. As Einstein says, he who understands it earns it, who doesn't understand pays it. So you shouldn't be the one who pays it, right? And let's talk about this magic number of 72. It's just an easy way to calculate. So if you want to calculate uh, how will my money double? So if a mutual fund gives you, so just divide it by 72. So if let's say you are a mutual fund which is giving 15% returns, 72 by 15, which is 4.8 years, your money will double in 4.8 years. If you're doing a fixed deposit, let's say you get 6% returns, that 4.8 years becomes 12 years. If you are on a savings account, which I hope you are not, then it'll become 24 years. So just understand, you will take 20 years more if you are a believer in savings bank account, and which is a long time, obviously, right? So this 72 is a very handy number to keep so that you can calculate how much, and you can do the reverse calculation as well, right? I want my money to return in 3 years, so I should grow at 72 by 3, 24%. So now let's talk a little bit about some calculations that how regular investments can help you in, earning good amount of money. So one question I think all of us have is that how much money will I have? Let's say if I go through this investment path. So let's just look at it from a calculation perspective. So let me just open a simple calculator. And this calculator is actually a pretty good calculator. Let me just move. Okay. So let me take an example of, and this is a good way to calculate your possible corpus you can make. So let's say you are somebody who earns 50,000 rupees, and I'm saying after removing taxes and assuming that you are doing the 20% of that as saving. So let's say you build 10,000 rupees as your amount which you will save. And then assuming that you are growing in your career and you grow your investment by 10%, and expected result here, I am first assuming a mutual fund kind of result. Let me put a more conservative 12% result, which is quite possible, easily possible. And you are doing that for next 20 years. So just look at this amount. This amount will actually gather to around 1.595 crores, almost 2 crores of amount, right? And this is by a small investment of 10,000 rupees, which is, and now this can go into your corpus for your retirement or whatever other requirement. Maybe if you're 25, after 20 years, you have kids education. Obviously, this doesn't take care of inflation, but if you are growing at 12%, inflation is growing at like 4-5%, obviously you get returns out of it, right? But what I'm trying to tell you is that this is a model which you should try to follow. That so even if you have 500 rupees right now, right, and you think you can grow this per year, go ahead with that. You'll still make 10 lakh out of it, right? So these calculators are very important for you to understand that at what rate you should, and 12% is a very conservative return. I'll tell you, I'll share my portfolio and share with you the type of returns which I have seen. But 12% is a very, very conservative assumption. So in the longer run, you can actually build a fairly big corpus with this. Now let's just go back to the slides and yeah, I think I think we have already talked about this XIRR and CAGR. XIRR is the important thing for you. CAGR is just the compound interest thing which you might have read during school times. Okay, so now let's come to, okay, so what do I recommend as products? Which one you should buy? Small case, I recommend, I think it's a good product. I have seen very good returns on my, whatever I have So I still see 24 new messages. I'll try to take all the questions, but I'll just try to finish the content of my, and I can go on and on. So, it's 8 to 9, but if some of you wants to continue, we can continue. So these are the things which I recommend. Small case is a recommended product. Mutual funds, ELSS. So my belief is that if you want to save taxes, I think somebody was asking earlier that I use my LIC premiums to save taxes. It's a better idea to move that money to ELSS instead of using LIC or some other mediums. ELSS actually have given very good results, and I'll talk about it as well. Most of the ELSS, the only thing is that they have a 3-year lock-in period, and that is much lesser than compared to any other tax saving instrument you will have. LIC has no liquidity. If you buy PPF and all those kind of things, typically 10-15 years, after 10-15 years only you can get that money back. So my recommendation will be move all your tax saving instruments to ELSS. If you want even more tax saving beyond 1,50,000, you can always use NPS. NPS is a very good product by government, which actually is more like a mutual fund because it gets managed by different fund houses. HDFC is there, ICICI is there, SBI is there. So then mutual funds, you can obviously break your funds into ELSS, debt and equity. Digital gold, I prefer to buy sovereign gold bonds. This gives you 2.5% extra by the government. You can buy sovereign gold bonds. In fact, I'm sure in June they will have some rounds of sovereign gold bonds, and you can buy it on any demat account. NPS I talked about. High interest rate sweep option. I personally use Paytm and IDFC Bank, but a lot of always make sure, as I was saying, savings bank account is a scam. So always make sure that you have some account which has a sweep option where you can take it to a higher interest rate. I use Paytm, and I use an interesting technique where what I call as that. Let's say if you use Paytm, what happens is you can open fixed deposits of any amounts, right? I can do a fixed deposit of 10,000 rupees. So I do these fixed deposits in small amount of 10,000 rupees each. Then if I need only 15,000, I just need to break 2 fixed deposit. I don't need to break, let's say I have 10 fixed deposits of 10,000 each. So instead of doing a large amount fixed deposit, I tend to do small amount fixed deposit. Last point, everything is online right now. You don't need to go anywhere, no paper signing. Everybody has video KYC. In fact, tomorrow, if you want to set up your accounts anywhere, it's a, I would say, half an hour, 1 hour job, not more than that. I personally use ICICI Direct just because ICICI Direct was I think one of the first few online brokers. So I have been investing for almost 20 years. So that's why I have that. Then I have Zerodha, which is more a new age broker. And then I use Kuvera more because I used to advise them at some point. So that's why I use Kuvera as well. Those are the tools I use. Now, this is something I'm just trying to share my portfolio and just trying to share the returns I've got. And this is all in XIRR. As you can see, my majority of the returns, and here let me just try to point out that, for example, I'm invested in a Quantax Growth, which has given me actually the maximum result. 131% is my XIRR on this right now. Although it's for a short duration. So in short duration, these numbers take them with a pinch of salt. But these are the kind of returns which you can get. But understand that these kind of returns I'm talking about because recent 2 years there has been a amazing bull run, and especially if you had SIPs working for you when the market went down, right? In March 2020, market went down. So some of that money has grown at a crazy level. So I won't say that next year I will not have such a nice balance sheet, but right now this is the way it looks like. As you can see, most of the assets actually have given pretty good results in mutual funds. Yeah, I think I talked about it. I own sovereign gold bond, digital gold. Digital gold, I've stopped buying that because it actually has a GST impact and some more cost associated with it. Now let's talk about stocks. One thing is, let me just make it clear, I don't recommend stock buying to most of the people who don't have time to, read annual reports of these companies and things like that. And I won't call this a ideal stock portfolio. Typical stock portfolio, 10, 15 stocks is max you should have. I gathered a lot of junk. In fact, this number of 20 has come after a lot of cleanup. I still have to clean up more. But here, things which you see in green are companies I'm bullish on and I'm trying to acquire more stocks. So Airtel CAMS is a very interesting company which runs all your mutual funds. Actually, it's a software company which runs all the software behind your mutual funds. IDFC First Bank is something I'm super bullish on. This is a bank run by a guy called Dr. V, not Dr. No, it's a V Vaidyanathan is the name of the guy. Very, very talented guy, very, very talented banker. Jyoti Labs is Aya Naya Ujala Char Bundo Wala. I'm sure you must have seen that ad. It's the same company. Reliance is something I'm bullish on because I see some value unlocking because of geo progress and a lot of digital stuff they are doing. And right now, all that is related to Reliance. There's no separate holding company from that. And overall, if you look at sector perspective, I will have a lot of banking stocks, banking or insurance related stocks. Leel Electricals, these are the type of stocks which I should have never bought. They are worth zero right now. I think I would have lost maybe 40, 50,000 rupees in them. There were tons of other stocks which I've cleaned up where I've lost a lot of money. I don't recommend direct stock buying to a lot of people unless you really have a lot of time to read up about them. As Warren Buffett says, if you don't understand a business, don't buy it, right? And owning a stock is like buying a business. Don't look at it, try to understand it before you buy it. These are the small cases which I personally invest in. And as you can see, so just pointing to some, some of these things, especially these, four small cases, if I point to, these are standard algorithmic based tradings. I think somebody had asked a question about algo trading. I won't recommend trading, but algo based investing. So there are some algorithms which different people have written over time, how to identify a company, whose stock price is likely to go up, quality of management, there is a return on capital. There are tons of parameters which are there. So if you look at this, it actually has given me a pretty good results. Most of them are like 80, 90%. Again, let me just add that this is last, I would say 10, 12 months. So obviously returns are much higher. Rising rural demand, I strongly believe that in India, we have 60, 70% rural population. That population has to migrate to a better lifestyle at some point, and there'll be companies which will benefit from it. Electric mobility, I talked about. All weather investing is more like some indexes, some gold, that kind of things. But it has given overall pretty good result. This looks nice right now. Next year, this will be much lesser than this, but this is the way it looks like right now. Let me just clear all drawings. Yeah. Debt portfolio, in fact, this is something which is less on me. Just from a percentage wise, currently I have 7% debt, which is actually pretty bad. I need to fix that. These are the various instruments which I use. On Kuvera, there's a product called Kuvera Save Smart, which internally, this becomes my savings bank account sort of. So whenever I get money in terms of salary or something, I'll just put it on Save Smart, which is a liquid fund. Paytm, IDFC, I talked to you about fixed deposit funds. Then there are some, mutual funds which I invest in personally, and they have given me reasonable results. So now we are almost towards the end of our discussion, and then I'll actually go through the questions as well. So let's just understand architecture of an investment strategy. So if you are right now trying to build a portfolio, what are the things which you should, do there, right? So one suggestion here will be that if you are not the kind of guy who has a lot of time, if you are the lazy, busy kind of guy, don't even go into this bucket. Forget this bucket. Okay. Don't invest directly in stocks. You can always do it via mutual funds. Don't do it. Don't go to this bucket at all. So now let's talk about primarily three asset classes, which is equity, gold, debt. And we can get into more asset classes, but I'm just trying to, just for the sake of simplicity, I'm just trying to, in mutual funds, you can go to active funds. In fact, what I would say is that there are active funds and passive funds. Again, if you have even less time, don't go to active funds, just go to passive funds. Invest in index. Okay, invest in Nifty 50 or whatever index you believe in, a banking index, or don't go to actively managed fund. Okay, for the laziest and the busiest of people, the simplest path is mutual fund, which is passive. Gold, I already talked about. Sovereign gold bond is the best way to buy gold. And what should be the percentage? We'll come to that. Debt, there are multiple types of instruments. There are 16 types of debt funds, but let's talk about 4 which are relevant. There are liquid funds. Liquid funds typically should be used to, this is like a saving bank alternative. That is how you should use this. Then there is banking and PSU fund. These are more money, banking and PSU debt funds and corporate bond funds. This is something which are more longer term thing. Money market, liquid, these are more short term. These are more, you should look at them as alternatives to your savings bank. So now let's talk about what will happen if you, so I'm assuming that most of you are busy, lazy, low risk taker. With that assumption, I'm just recommending a portfolio which is the easiest portfolio to build, and most likely it will give you pretty decent results without any time spent by you. Parag Parikh Flexi Cap is actually a very nice fund. Parag Parikh overall fund house is something I love them as a fund house. Parag Parikh was a very well-known investor, and unfortunately he died in 2015. So they have a Flexi Cap fund. Flexi Cap means that they will have small cap, they will have mid cap, they'll have large caps, and then they also invest in a lot of foreign equity. So Parag Parikh, if you invest 25 rupees in this, you will get equity, you will get the entire range of Indian stocks, as well as you will get a foreign equity exposure as well. 25% in 25 rupees in Quant Tax Saver. Obviously tax saver, I'm assuming that you have requirement to save tax and all that stuff. This has given amazing results over last 5 years. Axis Corporate, so this becomes your equity portfolio. So out of the 100 rupees, 50 rupees you have put in equity. And look, Quant Tax Saver will invest a lot since it has a 3-year lock-in. It actually invests in a lot of large cap companies. So this is not a very risky investment. This is reasonably stable investment. Then we talk about corporate debt funds. Look, what happens with a lot of companies is that they give debt instruments. This is like they issue a bond, just like you have fixed deposits, right? Company also issues fixed deposit. Like Bajaj Finance, for example, issues fixed deposit, where what they'll say is that I'll give you 6-7% interest rate and people can buy that. So there are debt funds which use instruments like this typically, and we'll talk about growth rates in each one of them. So these are very stable, predictable results type of funds. Then we also have 10 rupees you can put in liquid debt funds. This is more your emergency fund. All those things can be part of this, where you are investing in liquid funds. Quant Liquid Plan is one plan which has given, I think, around 8% returns, which is pretty good. FT, based on the guy you bank with, you can plan accordingly. I use Paytm, which in turn uses IndusInd Bank, and gives me 6.5% result, 6.5% returns, which is reasonable, I would say. Then there is rupees 5 in gold, which is sovereign gold bond. That is how I invest in gold. And now let's see, if let's say you had done this investment, let's say I took this session 5 years back. Let us just see if this 100 rupees was invested in 2016 or 15, what would have happened. So I've just built a simple spreadsheet to show you that. Okay, so let's just see, and I know the answer is right written here, but so Parag Parikh Flexi Cap has grown actually at 23.38%. So your 25 rupees would have become 71 rupees today. Quant Tax Saver is actually outlier. It has grown at much higher pace. Most of the other funds have grown at like around 20%. But this is outlier. So this has grown like this would have become 99 rupees for you, almost 4 times of your investment in 5 years. Axis corporate bond fund would be grow at 8.88%. So this is 38 rupees, 13 rupees. And then FD 6.5% growth. So your FD would become 13 points. So these are obviously, these two things are low growth thing. Then I talked about gold. Gold has actually become from, it was around 30,000 rupees for 10 grams, which is now around 50,000. So I've just multiplied the gold price by 5 by 3. So you would have ended up with around 244 rupees in 5 years. And now on top of that, let's say you add all the compounding, and I'm just talking about a single time investment here. So if you add compounding to that, you obviously would have built significant wealth across 5 years. And then again, that would compound with just a simple, this is a non-aggressive portfolio. I'm not talking about taking any risk here. Okay. So that is roughly what I had. I'll just now try to go through the questions and try to answer all these questions. If some of them are already answered, I'll just skip them. Millennials have a tendency to spend a lot. How we can control our expenses? There's a question from Pankaj Rathore. Pankaj, there's a simple technique. You set up a SIP on 1st of every month. As soon as your salary comes, take the money out to somewhere else, right? So I think a lot of us have tendency that if we see money in our bank, we remember all the places where we can spend the money much more. So I think the simple answer is that try to take money out of your savings bank. Just set up a SIP in your account that on the 1st of every month, 2nd of every month, money gets pulled out of your account. Okay, let me just try to see more questions in this. I think I've answered some of these. I'm really enjoying this session. What percentage in core and satellite? I see this question from Akansha Singh. Yeah, 80-20 is what I would recommend, 80% core. But if you are much younger, you might change that. And again, it also believes that what is your, like, for example, I have EV in my satellite. What is the level of belief I have in EV right now? But yeah, at my age, I'm 48, I'll probably keep it 80-20. But I think if you're younger, you can probably try 60-40 type of thing. Vinay Bansal has, I follow approach of 3:1 parts in Nifty and 1 part in, yeah, that's pretty good, Vinay. I think he's saying that he follows 3 parts in Nifty 50 and 1 part in Nifty next 50. That's a fairly good approach, Vinay, makes a lot of sense. What's your view on cryptocurrencies? I think I've already answered. Is personally, I've actually experimented with cryptocurrency, but it's like a token amount. I was just testing the apps. I don't think I'll use crypto as an investment vehicle. Why not choose aggressive style? Abhay has a question. Why not choose aggressive style up to 5 years before the goal? Yeah, Abhay, that is actually very good approach. When I talk about aggressive style of investing, balanced style of investing, there are 2 more dimensions to this. That one thing is you can change your style over time, and then you might have a different style for a different goal, right? So let's say if I have a foreign trip as a thing, right? Even if, let's say, I follow aggressive lifestyle, and let's say the stock market goes down and I don't meet that, it's not a basic requirement, right? But kids education, let's say for that goal, if you follow aggressive style, then you will have a problem, right? Because if you can't tell your kid you can't study because at least in India you can't say that. Okay, maybe in other countries that works. Crypto HODL with leftover cash. I'm not sure what HODL is. Ankur has this question, but the leftover cash, yeah, but try to limit it to 1%, 2% type of range as far as crypto is concerned. What do you use to buy foreign stocks? That's a good question. I personally use, I think if I look at my mutual fund portfolio, let me just show it to you. I think I will have, yeah. So I have Parag Parikh Flexi Cap Growth, which actually has a foreign equity component. Then I've personally bought in PGIM India Global Equity Opportunities Fund, which is, and then for healthcare, I have bought in a PGA, there's a World Healthcare Index, which basically has companies from other countries as well. Okay, so that is something which I have used in my portfolio. But yeah, so there are enough mutual funds which invest in foreign equity. Debt, please explain. I don't really get. Debt is just like interest rates, right? So debt is more predictable investment things. Why was the column income there in investment style chart? So income, it's just a naming convention, not nothing more than that. People who want predictable income. Okay, so then I have another questions from Abhaya. For example, kids education requirement in 2040, then till 2035 stay in aggressive style. Yeah, Abhay, that is a very good approach, that you can change your styles over time. And I think much younger people can start with more aggressive styles, and as they grow up in age, they can get to a more balanced styles. In fact, this is something I haven't done in my portfolio, and I have to do is I'm actively trying to do. I'm trying to move money from equity and trying to move it to debt for myself. What do we mean by debt? Again, debt is a simple thing which is interest based, any instrument which gives you a defined interest rate based things. So just one thing, let me just mention about debt. Look, the way you choose a debt fund is very different from the way you choose an equity fund. So let me just give you a concrete example here. Look, equity funds can have a lot of volatility, right? Your price goes up and down, that kind of things, right? Whenever you buy debt instruments, what you have to look at is that they should be in a straight line like this. Their returns should not be. So if you look at, for example, this, if I look at an equity fund, so let me just choose, I have opened some. So this is my Parag Parikh graph, right? So here, this is Nifty 50 in orange and Parag Parikh in blue. This is going a lot of ups and downs, right? But when I look at my debt funds, which are, let's say I have this fund, which is IDFC. No, this one is going up and down because it's a different type of fund. But let's say this is a corporate debt fund. This is relatively a more straight line. If I just draw a 5-year straight line, right? This is more of a straight line compared to an equity fund. So that's the whole idea of buying debt funds, right? That you are trying to not buy into volatility. You are trying to buy into, things which are more predictable. Will you be sharing this PPT? I think I'll put it on my blog, the bkbirla.in. So you can go there and have a look at it. I'll put it there. Investing in foreign equity. Why, when investing in foreign equity markets, would you recommend FX hedged or unhedged, assuming long-term investment? I'm sorry, I don't think I really understood this question. Let me tell you, I'm not a trained finance guy, so there are some terms I don't understand. So excuse me for that. Unable to understand Nifty 50 and Nasdaq 500 that are not correlated, Anshul. So Anshul, yeah. So what can happen is that Indian economy and US economy can run in two different directions. And assuming that Nifty 50 will represent Indian economy and Nasdaq 100 will represent US economy, they can go in different directions. And in fact, if you look at past data, that would have happened in, although world is becoming a more related, place. But then a lot of companies are based on local consumption, right? So for example, an Infosys price might be a function of Nasdaq 100, but a Reliance price might not be a function of Nasdaq 100, right? So India is a big enough country, so there are enough companies which are, which will grow at that pace. What is the meaning of debt? I think we have talked about that. Liquid funds. Yeah, so I think Atul, where do you recommend parking excess? Yeah, liquid funds, that is where you should park. 1.95 crore is not inflation adjusted. Yeah, that's right, Vinay. Yeah, so actual return of that will become less based on that. Please share the slides. Is there a way for individuals to get exposed to angel investments? For angel investment, I can't comment on here, not in the context of this presentation. How to invest in small case, just log into the site, it will ask you, I think a small case works with different DMAT providers. I think it will work with Zerodha, Grow. I think at least 8 or 10 guys they work with. So if you have a DMAT account with some other guy, you can just log into small case using any of those DMAT account. Geetika, I think, has answered one on my behalf. Yeah, I think Geetika, you had told me about this IPV inflection point ventures where you can invest in, you can become angel investors in startup companies via that. I think they have some, I think 2.5 lakh cap. That's what I remember, Geetika, you telling me.
Yes, that's right.
Right.
The minimum ticket size is 2.5 lakhs.
2.5 lakh, right, Geetika? Yeah. Okay. Zerodha has a small case app and platform. I think, yeah. Sovereign gold bank have so less returns. Is it only on about diversification? Look, gold returns are, you have to look at a sovereign gold bond is a better way to invest in gold. Do you want to invest in gold or not? That is a separate question. If you look at 30, 40 years data, gold has given reasonable results. And then again, look, the portfolio I was recommending, gold was a 5% thing, and it is weakly correlated to other things. So it basically serves that purpose. There are a lot of people who don't have gold in their portfolios. It's perfectly fine. Do you track compute XIR using XLSS or? Yeah, I think XIR formula, in fact, XIRR word has come from Microsoft Excel because they called it XIRR. The actual term is IRR, internal rate of return. So both Google Docs and normal Microsoft Excel have actually XIRR calculation. Our sector, I think we have a question from Tashiba Khan. Are sector specific mutual funds bad investment? I would say no, Tashiba. My only recommendation will be that finish your portfolio of basic index funds or basic large cap, all that stuff, and then get into index sector specific. For example, I have bought 2 mutual funds which are pharma specific. Obviously, the assumption is that with the current scenario, in fact, pharma and insurance industries. So if I look at my investment, I feel pharma industry has to do well with all of us falling sick all over the place. Insurance industry will do well because they are based on fear, and we are a underbanked, under insurance country, right? Banking industry will do well as per me. Electric vehicle, I would see it as a 10-year, 15-year type of play. So sector specific totally makes sense. In fact, small case and mutual funds, both are good ways of small case means, Rajendra, that is actually a company's name, small case. Pretty good company, actually. I think Zerodha has an investment in it, in fact. How to do algo based trading or investing? Trading, I won't know much about, although I have one of my neighbors out here does that. In fact, he did a very interesting thing. He built a, totally Selenium based solution. Selenium is a testing tool. I'm sure some of you might have used. He built a Selenium based solution to do automated trading. But I certainly don't believe in trading. I don't do trading at all. Trading is a full-time job, and assuming that all of you are in some full-time job somewhere else, my recommendation will be not to get into any trading. How many years should we refer to before investing in any company? I think 5 to 10 years, Akansha, that is minimum. You should look at while you invest in company. Almost all the companies' annual reports, investor presentations, they are available on internet. There are enough sites like Money Control, Ticker Tape, tons of companies, right? Chittorgarh, all these sites. Or you can go to BSE, NSE sites directly and read their annual reports. But yeah, look at least 5 to 10 years of information if you are directly looking at. Anshul, what is a debt portfolio? Yeah, this is primarily a bunch of mutual funds you invest in, which are debt mutual funds. By the way, let me tell you one thing. The debt mutual fund is actually much bigger than the equity mutual fund. Most of us just talk about stock market, right? From what I remember reading, it's at least, I think 100 trillion or something. That is the debt size. Whereas equity is some, I think 15, 20 trillion, some number like that. So the entire debt mutual fund industry is, I think, around 4 to 5 times bigger than equity thing. So it's a wrong assumption that it's everything is about stocks and stock mutual funds. Which insurance are absolutely necessary? Again, I think term insurance you should get, health insurance you should get, term insurance if you have dependents, otherwise don't buy it. Health insurance, I think all of us anyway need it. Try to convince your company to buy a better health insurance, always works out better. Can you please talk about effect of annual management cost on investment returns? Yeah. Right. So Mohit has a question. Yeah, on mutual funds, this is something which happens that there's an expense ratio of each mutual fund, and that expense ratio obviously eats into your the money you will make, right? So try to buy mutual funds which at least have less than 1% expense ratio. That is the advantage of buying into passive mutual funds. If you buy index funds, for example, their expense ratios will be in 0.1% range. So that is another way you can reduce the cost you pay. But yeah, if you think that there is, so for example, Parag Parekh is type of fund manager, I am ready to pay him money because I think he is pretty good. Or Quant is another fund which I like, and I'm ready to pay money to him because I think he's good. He can build outlier. He can give me much more returns compared to the money he's charging me.
Isn't expense ratio accounted in NAV?
Yeah, so what money you will get is excluding the expense ratio. Your returns will be minus the expense ratio. And always invest in growth options and direct options in mutual funds. Don't try to take dividends out. Dividend is a very tax ineffective way, right? You get money in your account, it will get charged, in fact, there's a very interesting thing, FD versus debt funds. It's a very interesting comparison. So FDs are actually very tax inefficient, right? You can FD, what happens is, and let me just explain this, especially if a lot of you are investing in FDs. What happens with FDs, let's say you are getting 6%, right? And you do a 1-year FD, you get that 6% money in your bank. Now, let's say you are in 30% bracket. So 30% of that is gone, right? So you are left with 4% returns. Let's say you invest the same amount on debt fund and that also gave you a 6% return. It actually might give you more, but then what will happen is that in debt fund, what you can do is you can get indexation benefits. So if you invest beyond 3 years, what you can do is in debt funds, you get indexation benefits. What indexation does is, let's say I bought a mutual fund route right now at 100 rupees. With inflation of 5%, this 100 rupees is equivalent to, let's say, 115 rupees. And let's say my mutual fund becomes 130 rupees. Now I will not be charged capital gains on 130 minus 100. I will be charged capital gains on 130 minus 115. So my tax liability will significantly come down in debt funds. Okay, whereas that's not true with fixed deposit, right? Fixed deposit, you get the money, it has to be taxed, right? So debt funds, even if you have money and fixed deposits are giving you, it means that's why even in my portfolio, I said only 10% fixed deposit, 25% corporate bonds, because corporate bonds will give you at least 8-9% roughly in that range, right? I think the one we were using was giving 8.8%, right? So better fixed deposits are not that great idea. You can maybe allocate a small amount, but not much. If the car, your question is, I see one more question from Srinivas. What is the best way to invest in a lump sum amount came from one of your another investment? Yeah, I think Srinivas, if you get a lump sum from somewhere else, just do your asset allocation, just see where you are missing the assets. If let's say you are under on some of the assets, let's say you have less debt, put it there, otherwise put it in. And it's a good idea to still split it across some duration, even if you get a lump sum, so that it gets averaged. Because otherwise, if you invest a large amount at some point, another approach, Srinivas, you can use is, if you get a lump sum, put it in a liquid fund right away, so that at least you get 8%, and then do a systematic transfer plan to, let's say you have less equity, right? So there's something called a systematic transfer plan which you can do from one fund to another. So just set that up for next 12 months, that slowly that money moves from your debt fund to your equity fund. Iftikhar, Quant Tax Saver is already with NAV almost 200. Shall I start SIP or wait for market? Look, Iftikhar, there's no way to time the market. I think you should just go ahead and start the SIP. I know the NAV is high for this, but Quant has actually, you should look at some interviews of Quant guys. They have some interesting ways to measure which companies will do well, how will those things do well. So I think I would still do a SIP even if it's high right now. Your opinion on financial advisors or middle class, or how do we choose financial advisors? Not very good. You can choose me. I'm a free financial advisor. You can pick me. But anyway, yeah, I think it's a good idea to get a financial advisor, but don't get into a financial advisor who's trying to sell you something. Look, LIC guy is a wrong financial advisor. His salary is based out of the premium you pay, right? So there has to be a weak correlation between the interest that guy has, right? If I am a doctor and I am a medicine seller, I will recommend you a lot of medicines, right? So don't get into those scenarios. If your financial advisor is independent, his earning is not dependent on the product he's selling, then it is fine. What would be an aggressive portfolio look like? How would it differ? Yeah, aggressive portfolios will have a higher equity percentage, even 70, 75%, 80%, that kind of things will become aggressive. Tax saving investments. Yeah, Neha, I think that's a good question. My recommendation will be to use a combination of National Pension Scheme and ELSS. ELSS is a good thing which gives you, good amount of, which is, I won't recommend PPF and these kind of things because liquidity is very low. ELSS give you, so if you're trying to claim, let's say 2 lakh, 1,50,000 plus 50,000. So 50,000 you can get in National Pension Scheme. The advantage of NPS is that it is managed like a mutual fund. So your investments actually go into equity. So you get actually the typical return of NPS for last 10 years has been around 10%, which is pretty good. And then you invest in ELSS, which will give you probably 15-20%, although my Quant Tax Saver has given 30%, which is more outlier. But just imagine your tax saving instruments giving you 10% or let's say 15-20% returns. So you'll actually end up making much more money in your tax saving process as well. Instead of investing in LIC, which will give you 5 to 8%, or PPF, which will give you maybe 7 to 8%, and then with lack of liquidity. So NPS is recommended, ELSS is recommended. ULIP is heavily not recommended, again because it combines investment and returns, right? Current market is high. Should we wait for market correction? No, please don't wait. Start a SIP, Srinivas. Don't try to time the market. It's a bad discipline of investing, trying to time the market. Okay. Aki has a question. Any advice you would give to a 21-year-old who wants to invest aggressively? Yeah, Aki, my advice would be, starts with equity index funds. That is the best way to start investing your investment journey. Buy some index funds or buy some flexi cap funds. Parag Parikh is what I like, but you can obviously look at other flexi cap also. Overall, I feel that good fund houses are in the market are Parag Parikh. Quant is a risky fund house, but a good fund house. Then Axis is actually a very good fund house. And Mirae is another good fund house. So any funds by these companies are pretty good. Niharika has a question. Elaborate on liquid and money market debt funds. Yeah, so debt is actually, there are 16 types of debt funds, Niharika. And the type of fund depends on the type of instruments they invest in, the length of those instruments. And what happens is that, so there is, in debt funds, there are two concepts, something called as a interest risk, and then there is something called as a credit risk. So interest risk is something, let's say I invest in something which is just a 3-month fund, right? The possibility of interest rate changing is very low, right? But let's say if I invest in an instrument which is a 10-year thing, interest rates can change in 10 years. So based on the interest rates, the value of your bond can change. That's a slightly complex topic. I can explain that separately, but just understand that. So there's an interest rate variability, right? Second thing is credit risk. Credit risk is something, let's say, if you take a loan from, let's say government issues a bond, there's no credit risk. The probability that government will return you back that money is you buy a Kisan Vikas Patra or Samriddhi Yojana, right? There's some for baby child or some baby daughter or something. I think there is some program, right? Now, probability of government defaulting is very low, but then government will give low returns also, right? But there is another company like Bajaj Finance, for example. Bajaj Finance is still one of the good corporate companies. But let's say there is a XYZ company who's giving you a bond at 10% interest. And they will say, okay, this is a 5-year bond and I'll give you 10% return every year and then give you the capital plus interest after 5 years. Now, if that XYZ company can default, right? So the credit risk of that increases. So based on these two things, credit risk and interest risk, there are these duration-based funds. And based on what type of bonds they buy, there are 16 different categorizations of mutual funds. If you want to be safe, buy some things which is, ET Money is a good website to actually look at some of these funds. And ET Money actually does that classification very well based on the duration. I personally like ET Money, both YouTube channel as well as website, because it's very good, no drama, good information. Views cover on covered call options, selling, generating extra return. I don't know much about it. Naman won't be able to comment. Surabhi Bhatnagar, most of my corpus of last 5 years is unfortunately big corpus to put in, but yeah, Surabhi, my recommendation will be split your corpus as per your asset allocation, put it in debt to start with, slightly start moving to equity as you go along. Clarifying on HODL, hold on for dear life. Okay, that was a nice one. Any good book for financial understanding? I'll recommend ET Money YouTube channel. That's pretty good actually. I'm sorry, I see in the current mindset exponential growth and unethical practices by Vinay. Exponential growth and unethical. Vinay, there are enough fund managers who make sure that they don't buy any company with which has corporate governance concerns. So like it's like Adani Group, for example. A lot of people have corporate governance concerns on them. So there are a lot of mutual funds who don't invest on them. So you'll find enough mutual funds who make sure that filtering happens. Buying stocks like Google, Apple, Tesla, I would rather not buy stocks directly, but buy through a mutual fund. Which category of industries should we start today? Is starting airlines a good idea? No idea about airlines business. Bad guy too. I think there was one saying by somebody, Arnab, that if you want to become a millionaire, start a airline. And assuming that you are already a billionaire, you will become a millionaire by starting airlines. So I don't know how correct that is, but okay, bad corpus already there. I think I've already suggested put it in debt and then move it to equity. Debt funds also show dips. Yeah, that's right. I think Abhay, you are right. The debt funds can show downturns, but I think try to use short duration debt funds. Their chances of going down are relatively less. Is it prudent to put money in NPS tier 2 according? I won't put NPS money tier 2. NPS has tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 2 is almost like investing in a mutual fund. I would rather invest in a generic mutual fund instead of NPS tier 2. There's no extra advantage I'm getting from that, Birendra. Please share the link of your blog. bkbirla.in is my blog. I'll put it there. I think somebody has already put it. Do you suggest invest in Sukanya Samriddhi scheme? Yeah, I think that's a good scheme. That's what I've heard. I have not personally invested, but I think it gives you and anyway that you can invest a small part in that. In your debt portfolio, you can add Sukanya Samriddhi scheme. Where can we find expense ratio of a mutual fund? Money Control, I think, has almost ET Money, Money Control, index mutual fund or directly ETF from the market. Index mutual fund versus ETF is not much of a difference. Either one is fine, whatever you are comfortable with. I think that difference is not much. Can you please talk about Franklin India debt default? I don't know much about that fund, Franklin India. I'll have to do research and talk about it. What will happen? Health insurance plans or term insurance, which company are working on is if we switch on company in future. Yeah, that's right. Krishnan, you are right. I think his question is what happens to health plan? You should buy extra health plan if your company doesn't cover you enough. Mostly all the companies now give health insurance. Honest advice for people just starting out, path of investment, start with your emergency fund, put it in debt. Tashiba Khan, I think that would be my first recommendation. If you are starting 6 months of your investment, put it in a debt fund. That is, I think, a good starting point. If I plan to settle down abroad in future, I will see these investments go in vain, especially NPS or no, I think even if you go abroad, I think there is, I don't know what are exact the laws, but I don't think your NPS and all will go. Even if you move abroad, I think there is I don't know much about the citizenship laws, but I'm sure that this cannot go. Yeah, I think, yeah, there is an NRI option. I think somebody has already answered that. I haven't invested in mutual fund yet. From where to start? Heard about where to start is simple. Buy Nifty 50. That is the easiest way to start. If you are starting your buy a Nifty 50, buy a liquid fund. Those are the easiest way to start. I haven't invested in mutual fund yet. Okay, so I guess I have covered all the answers here, all the questions that were asked, and I still see around 50 people. So if somebody has a question, please unmute yourself. I'll be happy to answer. How to decide asset allocation on weak correlation? Yeah, I think, look, this is a good way to do that asset allocation. I think I was showing some chart, weak correlation. This is a good way to understand weak correlation. So typically stock market in another country, debt bonds and gold. Those are 4 broad categories you can use which are weakly correlated. So yeah, and percentage, I think we have already talked about here, that your percentage is based on your investment. Okay, next question from Saurabh is, what exactly is ULIP? Yeah, ULIP is a bad marriage of insurance and mutual fund, which doesn't serve either purpose. In fact, ULIPs were sold very badly in the early days. There were too much of cost. I would not recommend ULIP to anybody. Buy term insurance separately, invest in mutual funds separately. ULIP is a bad idea. It doesn't give you sufficient returns. It doesn't give you sufficient insurance. So it's a bad idea. ULIP is a bad idea. But it is basically a cross between the two. Any other question, folks? By the way, I realized that I hit the 100 limit on my Zoom account for the first time. And probably some of you might have failed in joining. We'll plan another class maybe some other time. But yeah. Okay, guys, then thanks a lot. I think that's it from what I had. Okay, so I still have one more question from Saurabh. By the way, just one thing for people, if you want to reach out to me, please reach out to me, because as I was telling, financial planning is a very, very involved task with the individual's requirement. So please feel free to reach out to me. We can have a discussion about investment on a one-on-one basis. I'm more free on weekends, and weekdays I'm totally tied up, but weekends we can do. As long as the lockdown is there, I think weekends are. So Surabhi has written, I'm investing in a lump sum of 80% of my portfolio, one by putting in debt funds. STP, which debt funds should I pick? Yeah, so Surabhi, so her question is that you are putting a lump sum in a debt fund and then you are trying to do a systematic transfer plan to another equity fund. I think debt fund, you can pick up any liquid fund from, I think, Axis or yeah, Axis might be. I'll just see what I recommended here in debt fund. Yeah, so I think I had quant liquid plan is what I had recommended. You can put it in quant liquid and then transition it to a Parag Parikh flexi cap or a something which is index fund or any index fund, and space it out by maybe at least a month, because otherwise the frequency will be very less. Surabhi, exact STP amount, I would say that break it into 12. So at least there is a year. A year will give you a decent averaging out, Surabhi. So I think whatever amount lump sum you have, break it into 12 parts, do it per month. That might be a good approach. Yeah, Atul, you can email me. My email ID is bkbirla@gmail.com. But my friends say I respond faster on social media. So you can try any of the social channels. That works out much better. But please feel free to reach out to me. Okay, guys. So what I'll do is I'll probably put this presentation as well as this. I think I've recorded the video. I think I missed maybe 5 minutes of that, but I think I have the video. So I'll end the session now. I'll put this on my blog, bkbirla.in, or you can follow me on Twitter. I don't tweet much about personal finance though, but you can just check it out on my blog. I'll put this on somewhere so that you can get all this information. Okay, guys, thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks for email IDs bkbirla@gmail.com. I'll just put it here also. Yeah, but I'm easy to find on social media. Okay, guys, thanks a lot. Thank you. Thanks for coming over.